Bueno.
Yes.
That's where he did. Instead of not picking up. Jennifer, can you ask Andrew if he can hear?
Good evening. Good evening and welcome to the regular monthly meeting of the Weaverville Town Council on Monday, June 27, 2022. Thanks for being here. We're going to start off this meeting this evening with a public hearing, and let me just read the notes that we need to read to you all regarding comments made during public hearings. Town Council has scheduled a public hearing for tonight. Comments on the topic were allowed to be submitted in writing in advance of the meeting and will be received during the hearing. Normal rules of decorum apply to all comments, and duplicate comments are discouraged. Actions and behavior can be questioned, but personal attacks cannot be tolerated. This is the time for town council to listen and to learn, and town council staff may not necessarily offer any response during your remarks. Comments during hearing are generally limited to 3 minutes. They are limited to 3 minutes. The town manager keeps time and says it's very annoying alarm will go off after 3 minutes. When you hear the very annoying alarm, you don't have to cut off in mid-sentence, but that's a signal for you to wrap up your comments. If you wish to speak, you should identify yourself by your name and state your street address when you come up to the podium. If an attendant at the meeting, you must come to the podium to speak so we can all hear you. For those who are attending remotely, and we do have visitors via Zoom this evening, if you'd like to give a comment, at the appropriate time, you'll be given the opportunity to raise your hand. And to raise your hand, you go to the bottom of your screen and hit on the button that says reaction. That will indicate to us that you want to say something. You must be recognized before giving your comments, and I ask to turn your video on during your comments so we can see who you are. Written comments, time received before the hearing, will be provided to members of the town council and included as part of the minutes of the meeting. So thank you very much for doing that. And with that, our first, we have our public hearing is in regard to the Ollie Weaver Road project, which we talked about over the past several months, and their request for R3 zoning. And I asked the planning director, James Eller, to remind us about this project.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Pleasure to be with you this evening. As you all recall, this project was before you 4 months ago. The zoning that was desired at that time failed, and now we're circling back around to the same properties that were in question at the time, which is an aggregate 33 acres and change off of Ollie Weaver Road. What is being requested this go around is the R3 zoning district.
Still there.
They tell me a lot of cameras and mics we as I think I was saying at the time, it's important for all of us to know what the R3 zoning district will accommodate. And that is both high density single family housing as well as multi-family housing at a density of 8 units per acre. As council knows, there was a water allocation for this project at your previous month's meeting, and 202 units is being applied for. Also need to note that tonight's public hearing has been duly advertised in accordance with state statute and municipal ordinance. This recommendation from the planning board is favorable in nature and is unanimous, finding that this proposal is both compliant with the comprehensive land use plan as well as reasonable given the nature of the zoning in the area. Of the public comments that were received in advance of tonight's meeting, 4 of those were related to this project. Those came to you from Ann Mathis, Beatrice Lothrop, Karen Courts, and Mary Miskine, all for coming to you earlier today. At this point, I think it's appropriate to turn over to the public for their comments, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have as a result of these comments, or certainly during the action item on this later this evening. And we do have several representatives of the application here with us. Any questions?
So we've got a couple of people who have signed up to speak to the public hearing this evening, and first is Scott Sheeran.
Hello, I may have signed up for the wrong topic. I wanted to speak about the resolution to keep that is put forward to use more of the Ivy River.
That'll be public comments later on the agenda. This is the public hearing on the Ivy River project, so I will delete you from this sign-up sheet, and wherever the new one is, we'll add you to that one.
Would you? Thank you so much.
The next person is Eric Surin.
Okay, pretty good. That's good. My wife and I, we work for the government many years, and we bought a house on 35 Hollywood Road. And we enjoy sometimes going out there. It's kind of like a sanctuary out there. There's a lot of different animals. I think there's turkeys that roost. Sometimes after work or just different times, we like to take pictures of that and enjoy what we see on the other side of the road there. Our road lately, from when we first bought the house, it seems like there's already a lot more traffic and stuff like that going up and down that road. And more people seem to be going, faster and faster on it. As it is, it's starting to become a little bit more unsafe. I know some people, they do whatever they can to keep it safe, and they do a great job with that. But there's been accidents on that road already. There's kids that play on the side of the road here and there. And I'm speaking on behalf of my wife also. She couldn't make it today. And she feels the same way I do. And we're just thinking if there's a unit that size or what have you, right around that area, we have a feeling there's going to probably be more accidents around there. There's going to be more traffic around. Beautiful town of Weaverville. It's nice, quaint, smaller type town. It's part of the reason we moved here originally from New York. We're glad to live here. So I just wanted to make sure I got that out to you all, how my wife and I feel about this project here going on.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
That's all the folks who signed up for the public hearing. Are there, do council members have any questions or comments?
Would you like to check?
Thank you. Before the council has any, is there anyone on Zoom who would like to comment during the public hearing? I'm sure it's all they're going to need to let me know.
No hands raised.
No hands are raised. Council members, do you have any questions, comments for the planning director on the public hearing?
Could James read us the definition for R3, please, so the audience can hear it too? Or just tell us.
I'm afraid I don't have it committed to memory, but the easiest way I can describe it is again, to suggest that it allows high-density, single-family residential development as well as multifamily development. That density, whether it be built out in single-family form or multifamily form, is capped at 8 units per acre.
8 units per acre.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. There are subdivisions in town that have 8 units per acre also, right?
Not that I'm familiar with in the R3 zoning district. You'll recall that this is largely a legacy zoning district that accommodated manufactured housing prior to the adoption of the manufactured housing overlay district. Just by accident, the vast majority of our high-density, single-family developments were previously done either as a special use permit or a conditional district.
Okay, you have to from the council? Thank you.
If I may, I think we have a question from the rear, 33.75 is administered to the acreage.
Sir, do you have a comment you want to make?
If I may, just briefly,
Can you come up to the podium, please?
we're here just to talk about water concerns in the community. That's it.
We're doing, this is a public hearing on the Ollie Weaver project, if you want to talk
Yeah,
about.
I don't have a particular interest in that project. I just wanted to comment that that's a high density development. I think that pertains to a lot of water use concerns.
Thank you.
Thanks. So having no other comments or questions, and yes. Could you come to the podium? We can't hear you.
Sandy Oliver, and I have a very quick question. I just would like to know what kind of plans have been made for the infrastructure for all of this building? You know, I've lived here for over almost 25 years now, so I've seen it cross of a sleepy little town. I'm talking about Asheville itself, too, into this humongous, I don't even know what I would call it. I'm not quite sure. But I'm wondering, what is going to be done about the traffic, about the auto accidents, about the water, about the electricity? There's so much controversy and fighting, and I don't hear any resolution as to what's going to be done for the infrastructure, roads, etc. Thank you.
I think this project has all the appropriate infrastructure it will need. James, do you have anything to add to that?
We continue to walk the fine line with voluntary annexation, water application, and initial zoning of the property. What I can tell you is if this is annexed and if the R3 zoning district is granted to the property, the project is of such a size it will launch a traffic impact analysis. Because Garrison Branch Road to the northwest, as well as Ollie Weaver, flanking the property to the east, those are both NCDOT roads. That traffic impact analysis will be done largely through NCDOT so that they can determine that the impacts of this development are accounted for through their street infrastructure.
Thank you, sir. I hope that answers your question now. Any others? Yes, come forward.
Mr. Mayor, if I may remind folks that want to speak, we do need full names and addresses.
Is that, my name is Patricia Locks, 32 Hermitage Lane. My property borders, the back of my property borders Ollie Weaver Road. In speaking with a council member a few weeks ago, it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the developer has done a traffic study, but that the council has not or had not yet at that point been allowed to see it. With statistics
in general of housing, we average 1.5 cars per unit. So a unit, 202 units, that's 350 cars. And then the statistics also show that that's times 5 with people going in and out. So with the 2 entranceways, one on Ollie Weaver Road, the other on Garrison Branch, that's a lot of traffic being added to those roads. The traffic, those who choose to come out of Ollie Weaver Road and want to go to Monticello, turning right to go to Monticello, will quickly realize that they're not going to be able to do that because you're not going to be able to get onto Monticello Road. So what they're going to do then is go left, go all the way around Ollie Weaver Road, Clark's Chapel Road, past all of our property. And I want to know if you've seen the traffic study that the developer supposedly did.
I believe our plan just addressed that, but if you remind us again, Mr. Zhao.
Well, you said that a study's been done.
I believe you said that would be done, but
Oh, okay.
we require another project in the future.
North Carolina Department of Transportation. They have control of the traffic.
All right, so is that going to be done before the project is approved?
So, yes.
Do you know a time frame on that?
They submit their paperwork for zoning approval. The traffic impact analysis will be included in that.
And you don't have any idea of, a month, 6 months, a year?
No, we have representatives of the application here with the state safety, and I'm sure they'd be happy to speak to that, perhaps during the action item.
I hope they do, and I'm saying that because I've been meeting with a realtor and plan to list my property for sale on July 7th. Because of what the previous gentleman said, all of that traffic on the River Road is going to be multiple.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, make a clarification, Tom Turner was kind enough to pass me a note. I still had the substation property in mind, which was the 33-acre parcel. This one is actually 25.
So, yeah, like, if I'm remembering correctly, I thought several months back when we were talking with the developer and, maybe the attorney, that somebody here on council asked if there had been a traffic study, and the response was, yes, I have, and can we see it? I don't have it available for you now. Am I misremembering that, or was there some kind of traffic study done that maybe the developer did several months back?
Yes, someone from the developer could answer that question for us.
Orange Slug Civil Design Concepts. Traffic impact study was done with the original submittal back when it was a much larger project. And that application through DOT, through recommendations, is a finished product that recommended no improvements. What's reported as a lesser amount of units. Any other questions?
Does that answer everyone's question about the traffic study was done on the project when it was designed to be a bigger project than it is now? So that would still, the new project would still require a subsequent traffic study, is that correct, Joe?
I would say it would be my interpretation if we had a traffic impact analysis done for a more intense use, then certainly if the applicant was willing to honor the findings of that, it would be certainly applicable to the property that is used much less intensely.
Loud, please.
They want to go to.
My interpretation would be that if a traffic impact analysis was done for a more intense development, the town would certainly be in a position to follow the results of that study if the applicant were willing to agree to the terms of the NCDOT for a project that was much larger in size.
If they were willing to, is that what you said?
They've already done a traffic study on a project that was much bigger than the current one. So what he's saying is that, that presumably if the if that one is approved by NCODT, then a smaller version would be as well. Did I say that correctly?
Did the original submittal have the second egress? So that would improve things.
I wouldn't think so, because that was one of the things that they added.
So what Councilmember shared with us is that the original budget only had a single egress, and now there are two. So in fact, it would actually improve the traffic flow. Mr. Suggs, could you repeat yourself, please?
Mr. Mayor, the developer is also online and has a hand raised.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like for me to go first?
Go ahead, if you'd answer the question that you take, once what the results.
Yes, so for the traffic impact study, the last step of it is what DOT gives you, is called a final determination letter. In that final determination letter, they give you the list of recommendations, which are requirements of the TIA, and they accept the study is complete. So we got that final determination letter. It had no additional recommendations of improvements for any roadway except studied.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Orton, from the development company, do you have something you'd like to say?
It's like he lowered his hand
Oh,
when Mr. Sugg answered.
Okay, I think Mr. Sugg spoke for Mr. Orton. I'm assuming that's the case, Mr. Orton.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I can't be there in person, but everything that our engineer said is true. I mean, we will revise the traffic study based on the final development plans, but we'll use 2 entrances, which is a commitment we've made with the Horizon Hills neighborhood with Les, and we're going to do everything we can to be a good neighbor. So we appreciate the time.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions about this? Yes. Just a reminder for folks, when you come in, if you want to speak at the public hearing, there are sign-up sheets, and we encourage you to utilize them, since that was not our standard.
Carson Lattimore, 47 Forest Knoll Drive. I'm just curious, as leaders of our community and the beautiful town we live in, what do you see is the benefit to high density development? What is the pros in your eyes to allowing these developments to occur?
I don't think anyone prepared to answer that question at this point, sir.
So none of you have a pro that you can speak to? No one.
Well, there is certainly a serious housing shortage.
At the cost of the beautiful place that we live in? Of losing what you have in a small town?
I suspect that, we're going to see development coming our way, whether we like it or not, sir.
Well, that's what you guys, that's what you're here for, is to stop that, to stop to help have our backs as a community, to stop the big guys, the millionaires from coming in and ruining our small town.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you, Bethel.
I remind this is a public, time for you to hear from the public, not necessarily to engage.
Anyone else? Good. Yes, sir. Okay, I'm going to allow one more, because at this point, we're really well beyond what the sign-up sheet was. Do you have anything to say? But you already spoken, once you have something to do? And we cannot hear you from that one thing.
I just wanted to know if ever there's a time when you put a ceiling on development, when is there nothing on that? But, it just seems like you've had a lot of it lately, not just here, but everywhere. I just wondered what people are thinking about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Can I ask you a question?
So you need to come forward to the podium so everyone can hear you. This is the last one, folks.
I was just curious of when, kind of supposed to hear about this Olive Weaver project. Like, is there any set time on that?
I'm not sure there's any question. What, would you repeat yourself?
It's on the agenda.
It's on the agenda for tonight. So the annexation of the project is on the agenda for this evening. Is that your question?
No, I guess I'm trying to find out when some of us are gonna find out if this is gonna go on or it's not.
What's before town council tonight is the issue on whether to annex it and to whether to zone it R3. it would be up to the property owner, if that happens, to submit an application for development. We can't guess when the developer may do that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you for your comments. Do we have a motion to close this public hearing? Okay, so the public hearing on the Auburn project is now closed. Thank you all for your comments, we appreciate them. Moving on down the agenda, you all, council members, have had an opportunity to review the agenda for this meeting. Are there any adjustments or a motion to approve the agenda as written?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, is there a second?
So,
Thank you. We have to do a roll call now, because we have to do one member who's on Zoom, so it takes, it's a time-consuming process, but it's required by law, so, Mrs. Hicks, how do you vote?
yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
And Ms. Cordell?
Yes.
Yes. And, what's your name?
Whatever. Yes.
Mr. McKenna? And, Mr. Nagel?
Yes.
Thank you. The next item is the consent agenda, and Town Manager Coffey, would you go through the items in tonight's consent agenda for us, please?
Certainly, and good evening to all of you. Beginning on page 18, we will find the consent agenda. This is May 17 workshop minutes. On page 20, you will find the beginning of meeting minutes for the regular meeting, Monday, 23rd. On page 25, you will find the beginning of the monthly report, just to report to you very briefly. As of the end of May, we were at 99.75% of collections, with roughly $9,200 left to be collected. On page 30, you have a budget amendment. This is for the community center phase 2. I do want to let you know that we are going to begin phasing out that name, community center phase 2. I believe we can probably do better with the name for that. And so for the time being, you'll see, or for the future, you'll see that being referred to as recreation complex or something like that nature. Phase 2 is really not indicative of what the project now entails. That's for donations of $576 and some odd change. On page 32, you'll find another budget amendment. This is for a donation to the fire department, a total of $25. On page 34, you will find a recommendation that Maggie Schroeder be appointed as an alternate on the planning board to fill the unexpired term that is due to expire in September of 2022. Beginning on page 36, you will find a request to set a public hearing on code amendments to chapter 20. This is outdoor lighting regulations, and this is to set a public hearing on for July 25th. That's your regular meeting at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. And just to follow up and make sure that everyone is aware, beginning on page 38 and 39, this section has actually been proposed, is completely rewritten. So that's why you don't see the typical red that you would see normally. Again, on page 40, you have a resolution approving an addition to the state highway system. And this is to take action to adopt the resolution to approve an addition of 0.02 miles to Garrison Branch Road. This is a request that came into this from NCDOT. And the town council has to approve it for, so you have that resolution. Page 49. On page 44 and 45, you'll find a proclamation. I do want to correct the spelling of street. Halfway down the page, should read S-T-R-E-E-T as opposed to E-A-T. Apologies for that. This is a proclamation recognizing First Baptist Church Weaverville and their centennial anniversary on July 15th. That is all of the consent agenda.
Thank you. Any questions for the town manager? Consent agenda? If not, I'm going to change the motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll make sure, okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Michelle Wood got that. So we'll do a roll call vote again. Mr. Chase, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson? Yes. Ms. Cordell?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. McDonough?
Yes.
And Mr. Nagel?
Yes.
Thank you, all. Consent agenda is approved. Since you're up to that already, town manager Coffey, would you give us your town manager report?
Yes, sir, just very briefly, the manager's report for the month includes, basically, just to let you know that the Citizens Academy's got started with a great start. We have 30 participants this year, it's a record for us. So we've only had one session at this point, and that was the general government, which included myself, Tanya, Dozier with finance, and Jack Jackson with legal. But we had really good participation with the future sessions. Next one is on Thursday, July 9th, and planning director Jim Dillon. Also, just to recommend to you, we've had some very brief conversation about this in the months past. But one thing that continues to rise to the top of the staff's list is that of planning a joint meeting with town council and planning board. We would propose to using the regularly scheduled July 19th workshop, which typical town council workshop. We would recommend that you give direction to the staff to go ahead and invite the planning board to that and make it a joint meeting, if that is the pleasure of town council.
Everyone good with that? And just also from your ask Chris Choyel, the facilitator of our land use workshop last month, to come back and follow up with us from that age. That's good.
We'll go ahead and staff will go ahead and do that in motion. Just an update on summer music series. We had our initial event this last month. We had a great crowd. We've got another one of those planned for Saturday, July 9th at 6 p.m. in the Nature Park. And then finally, July 4th is on, as we've done the last couple of years outside of when we were closed down for the pandemic. We will have the July 4th celebration downtown, and look forward to music by Ashley Heath to begin at 7:30 with fireworks at 9. So that's all of my
Thank you. Next on my agenda for this evening is general public comments, and give us people who sign up for that. And the remarks I made earlier regarding public hearings apply again for people making comments during general public comments. General public comments would be usually on the items of discussion and action on tonight's agenda. Please, if you want to come to the podium so we can hear you, and be sure to say your name and your address. That being said, the first up is Butch Brewer. Excuse me if I mispronounced your name, sir.
I was talking about fire department. No, it's not.
No, this is general public comments. You say whatever you want, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Last time I was remiss in not telling you who I was. I don't want to make the same mistake. My name is Butch Gudger. I was born and raised here in Winterville. My parents used to own a restaurant on Main Street called, at that time you called the restaurants Dives. And back when the racetrack was motorcycles, that kind of thing, that they all came to the restaurant after the race and stuff. And so I was raised on a tricycle, running up and down the sidewalk, running people off. It's the name of it. Just so you know. Anyway, I come to you tonight I was assistant chief of the Weaverville Volunteer Fire Department. I come to you tonight to ask your renewed support for the fire department. We've gone from being one of the best fire departments in the state to being one of the least. An example of that was we had there was a house fire on Church Street in Weaverville. Three firemen, 2 firemen fought the fire. Now, that's not acceptable to me or to you. And so I encourage you tonight to be more supportive of the fire department. The morale of the fire department is not good because they don't think they're being supported. And I can speak from personal preference that the reason you do things is because you know somebody's coming in behind you. They don't currently have that feeling. And so I encourage you the best I can that you would be more supportive of the fire department, and we do that, everything boils down to money. So, as you well know, so for several years, I think the fire department has been slighted, some financially, and I think a infusion of money is needed in order to return it to its place of glory. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Roger Cordell?
Hi, my name is Roger Cordell. I live at 13 Amber Drive in Weaverville. And yes, I do have a water bill. So I'm here to talk to you a little bit about what I think about the water recommendations that the mayor's presented, specifically the water treatment plan. So as a paying water customer, of course, I love our water, and I don't want it to change. I really, we have great water. I don't think that if we try to purchase water from Asheville, to me, that doesn't make any sense. We have to buy the water. The water will be aged because it goes through their entire infrastructure before it even gets to us. So really, I just wanted to let you know that I think we need to go forward with the water treatment plant. The infrastructure is there. When my aunt, Kathleen Young, was on the board, and I'm sure Doug was around. He was a resident. To build this water treatment plant that we can be proud of, and they even put in the infrastructure to do the expansion because they knew this day would come. And that day is here. Well, actually, it was 5 years ago, but here we are 5 years later, we still haven't done it. So let's get it done. Let's get the water treatment plant expanded and continue our good water. Thank you for your time.
Alton Bradley?
Evening, my name is Al Bradley. I live at 85 South Main Street here. I've lived here in Weaverville or in the area for about 50 years, and I'm a Western North Carolina native. I have a master's in public health degree from UNC Chapel Hill and have spent over 25 years working in emergency services as a firefighter, paramedic, and medevac flight nurse. So my comments will mainly focus on our water treatment plant from a public health and safety standpoint. I'm speaking in support of improving the water treatment facility. I understand that there are ARP grant funds that can be applied for with the expected expire at the end of this year. They can be used to offset, if not pay for, the expenses. And we need to move forward with this now before the application process closes. And I think it would be foolish to wait and see. I want to realize that monies are no longer available. The town will have to fund the project entirely. And I'm sure that means passing the cost on to the end user, which are the residents who pay for water. I understand we must be good stewards of our natural resources. But I am personally not aware of any study that has identified potential for harming the surrounding flora or fauna where the system operates or if it is approved in any way. Town leadership, first and foremost, must consider the safety of its residents. This includes providing drinking water free of contaminants and other harmful substances, as well as for use by the fire service for emergencies. I also understand we have an agreement with the city of Asheville to purchase water if needed. I, for one, do not want to rely on an outside agency for something as critical as water. Is there a legal or contractual agreement saying that Asheville is obligated to provide Weaverville with water? If a dire water situation develops at any time, I think it would be safe to assume it would affect the water systems in the entire area. Asheville will provide for its citizens first, as it should, and may choose to leave us high and literally to dry. Disasters and emergencies are planned for and encompass many phases, one of which is mitigation. This is the concept of how to lessen the effects of an emergency. Part of mitigation in this case would be preparing for needs of future unknowns. Dwight D. Eisenhower, the chief architect of the D-Day assault on Fortress Europe, once famously stated, plans are useless, but planning is essential. What he meant by that was when things do hit the fan, nothing will go according to a written plan, but planning ahead of time to assess needs, meet with other responsible stakeholders, and go over as many things can be thought of was what wins the day. And I can assure you from experience that that day will come. So in conclusion, I think it would be foolish not to get work on applying for this grant right away. I think to do so would otherwise be criminally negligent. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Kimberly Lewis.
I remember my time.
To who?
James George State Ivy River.
Oh, okay. Thomas Veazey.
I want to thank the town council and the mayor for all the work they've done on the study for the water treatment plant and also surrounding areas with looking at the Mars Hill and Marshall and combining resources to form a water issue and a water system together. That's going to take quite a few years to obtain and work all that out. Right now, we're in a water issue. We need the plant expanded so that we can maintain the water issues we have now. The basins that have been need repair, they can't be taken down. But the thing is, growth is going to happen. Whether the town accepts it and moves forward with the expansion, the communities that are in the county that are surrounding us are going to get the permission from Buncombe County, and their restrictions are a lot lesser than what our restrictions would be as far as density goes. We need this opportunity to expand that water treatment plant so the present plant can be repaired as needed when it goes down and supply. And then the big future growth, we need to look at what Patrick has put a lot of effort in, tying in with Mars Hill and Marshall with a permanent water source that will last us forever. Right now, we have the immediate thing we need attention on. I would request that we do move forward with this also.
Thank you, sir. Doug Sims.
My name is Doug Sims. I live at 223 Morse Pasture Trail. I'm here to speak on the fire department. The new firemen that you're going to hire, that you're going to give money to as they come on, I hope that works. The merit raise that you give the firemen that's there now for last year, are you giving them a raise for this year? Why I hear evidently not. Chief Davis, I appreciate what you've done so far for the fire department. Maybe they need to make you fire chief also. But sounds like you're doing a pretty good job with it. I appreciate that. Guys, when they need your help, they're the morale of the fire department. I'm there quite a bit. I have a son that works there that's captain. The morale of the fire department is the worst I've seen in a long time. We appreciate your help. Thank you.
Lisa Lichtenstein.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
My name is Lisa Lichtig. I live at 66 Rocky Hollow in Weaverville. I do not pay for water from the Ivy River, but I live along the Ivy River. And I've lived there for over 20 years and raised my 2 sons there. And I'm here tonight. I appreciate the concerns that the other people in the community here have raised about the need for safe drinking water and the concerns about having a networked system. Yet at the same time, it appears that there's been a proposal set forth by the council to create a collaborative network system that might accommodate the growth that is naturally going to happen here. My concern is the expansion of the water treatment plant. I understand there's some concerns about it needing repair, but my understanding is that you don't need to build a second treatment plant across the river from the current one in order to repair the current plant. And I believe that there are ways to ensure that the quality of the water is safe for the residents in Weaverville without having to build another plant. And this could happen through a coordinated effort with Mars Hill and other avenues. My concern has to do with the precedent that's been set that gives the council and some of the residents the impression that pulling twice as much water per day from the Ivy River is safe. I don't believe it's safe, but I'd like to see some data. I'm concerned that the data when the state awarded the town 4 million gallons a day. I was reading a report from 1993 and it was really confusing to me. And then I read another report from 2000 that was confusing again. And so I have a question before you make a decision that that can have irreparable effects. I'd like to better understand the reports. I talked to several council members and they basically said they have to trust the assumptions that are made by those who researched it. But as a citizen and someone who lives along the river and has seen drastic changes in the past 20 years, I'd like to recommend that another study be done. My understanding is that the Withers Ravenel report that was done in 2018 was based on old data. So I appreciate you hearing my concerns and I hope that we can come up with a cooperative solution.
Thank you very much. Wilton Harwood, Illinois. Devin Hanway.
Thank you, everyone. I was going to defer my time as well, but I think it's important that y'all hear from people of multiple generations and like.
Address.
Address 90 Rocky Hollow along the Ivy where I grew up. And I think that there's like a lot of issues here. It's complex. We get that. I think with complex, we need complex solutions. And it's great that y'all are working in a collaborative effort with the city, with Mars Hill, to look at a longer term solution. I also understand that there's grant funding that y'all need to act on if you're gonna make the needed improvements. Those things make sense, but it doesn't mean you need to expand the use of the Ivy 100%. We cannot grow Weaverville 100% in the next 3 to 5 years. The amount it would take to form a coalition with these other state actors. So I just don't understand why we can't take one step and say, let's apply for the grants to make sure the safety of our water today is okay, and maybe increase by 20% the water flow. Why does it have to be a big jump? That I do not understand. I really don't. I have friends, I know people who work in urban development, we get it. This whole region is growing. Things do not have to happen overnight. We do not need to create more polarity. We need to solve the actual issues of today and then continue conversation as we step forward. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Tibbetts?
And hope those don't count in 29. I co-paid him and everything, speaking.
Thoughts on that?
Jim Tibbetts, 1458 Turnpike Road, Marshall. And so I'm probably not going to finish everything, but I'm going to quote from number 3 of the resolution, and that is, town council agrees that there's a great benefit to working with the town of Marshall in an application for federal state grant funds that could be used. The expansion of the town's water treatment plant will provide for more public water capacity in the region. Next line is town staff is directed to work with the town of Marshall on a joint application for the fall 2022 federal and/or state grant funding cycle to seek funding for the water treatment plant expansion. Well, Forrest Gilliam, who's the town administrator for Marshall, knew none of this until I sent him this resolution today. And I think you can verify he sent you an email regarding this, yes? So I think that's misleading that Marshall is on board with this plan. They're not. They don't even know about it. Secondly,
I have to correct you. I had a meeting with Forrest and I attended he had all this information.
well, the town aldermen don't know either. So that's, Thomas Jablonski knew nothing about it, so it's not very well socialized. I'm just, so one of you is misinformed, we'll leave it at that. Secondly, this is from the engineer's report on what the mean level is for the river, right? And what do they base this on? 4 months of data in the fall of 1 year. That's how they're determining how much water can be withdrawn. They don't go into drought periods. They don't go into summertime. They don't go into what worst case scenario at all. So this is poor data. It's crap. Lastly, this river is a gem, right? This is Dave Penrose. He's a revered microbiologist, aquatic biologist. He did an analysis in May. This river is a gem. It has such biodiversity. It has hellbender salamanders. And we're just going to use this probably largely for industry in Marshall. That's where a lot of this is going to be pumped. Our new zoning guys in Madison County, they want to put in a biomass plant. They want to put in a 40-acre industrial park. They're asking for a 6-inch water line and 10-inch sewer line. So we're not supplying necessarily homes. We're trying to build an industrial park with this water. And I just think that's wrong. Thank you.
Jimmy Tile? Are you calling me? Yes, I'm.
Stuff, because I was supposed to hand that out after I talked for a little while, so let's share it too much. My name is James Heidel. I live at 120 Sam's Road, Weaverville, North Carolina. That is not within town limits. I'm not a voting member of the town of Weaverville. I live directly downstream from the water treatment facility pump house along the beautiful Ivy River. I'm here to talk about the potential expansion of the water facility. That was fast.
Thanks. Okay, so.
Okay. For context, I served as the senior analyst reporting directly to the executive leadership team for Bell Helicopter, Fortune 500 aerospace engineering and manufacturing company. In other words, I know how to collect, analyze, and evaluate data. I also know how to identify errors and omissions in data. What I say today is backed by USGS government data. Over the last 10 months, I've spent hundreds of hours analyzing the expansion of the water treatment facility. What was found is that 30 years ago, the state made a major mistake while evaluating the viability of the Ivy River as a primary and sole drinking water source for the greater Weaverville area. The 4.0 million gallons per day that they determined was readily available was wrong. There are several data analytics errors where the use of averages and failure to omit outliers created inflated water level numbers. I will spare you the details. Hopefully, after you hear what I have to say today, you will determine that the expansion is no longer a viable option. At the very least, I urge you to request that DEQ reassess the Ivy River and its viability as further justification of that decision. For the chart that I handed you, what you are looking at is a chart based directly off USGS Ivy River stream gauge flow data that occurred in August of 2008. Similar examples exist in 2016 and 2017 as well. The blue line is the total amount of water in the river daily from August 18th through August 25th. The solid black line is your 3 million gallon capacity should you choose to expand the Ivy River. As you can see, the total amount of water in the Ivy River drops under the amount that you would like to remove on day 2. The green line is the amount of water you would be allowed to remove, and at 40% of the total flow, I think it's fair to assume you would have measurable adverse environmental impacts. The red line is the most important line for you all to understand. That is the amount of water shortage you will be facing with a 3 million gallon per day plant if this repeats itself. Where are you going to supplement more than 2 million gallons a day? For 10 straight days, the river did not have enough water in it for you to pull 3 million gallons out. Should we expand the plant and have the same water levels, which will happen again, on day 1, you would begin to use your water storage tanks to supplement the 900,000 gallons of water shortage you experience. Within the first 3 days, even with water preservation efforts underway, you have exhausted your reserves, including the tanks like the one on hand right now. On day 3, the governor will declare a state of emergency for the town of Weaverville, and for 7 more days, the National Guard could be deployed to enforce strict water requirements. This isn't just my imagination. Similar situations occur more regularly all the time. 10 days ago in Kentucky, where the town of Marion ran out of water, and the governor of Kentucky was forced to declare a state of emergency and prepare the Guard for enforcement measures. There's one major difference between that example and this event. In that event, the shortage was unforeseeable. They had an unexpected dam failure and had to entirely drain their reservoir immediately. Those who made the decision to rely on that reservoir had no way of knowing that investment would fail them. Today's example is different. Now that you have this information in front of you, this event is foreseeable and avoidable. This is not a if, this is an absolute. The river will reach these levels again. And if you need 3 million gallons a day, it will not support it all the time. Expanding the plant does not make you any more drought tolerant than you are right now. You can't store enough water to ride it out for several days, and it is not a financially viable option to build more storage. Additional capacity does nothing to increase available supply of the Ivy River, whereas Asheville's robust reservoir system is a supply multiplier. The Asheville water connection is the solution. Spend the money now to bolster the interconnection and prepare the town for the growth we are inevitably going to experience. I encourage you to remove Section 7 from the resolution and versus the alternative of a yes vote to expansion. I believe solutions exist currently to repair the current plan. By continuing to kick this down the road, it can only go on for so long. I believe today should be the day that you vote no to plant expansion. Frankly, it's time to shit and get off the pot.
Jeremy, now you're the last one.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for hearing us. This resolution, I believe, as written, demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of water management. And I believe it would be an embarrassment to the town of Weaverville if passed. The first 6 steps you propose would be beyond adequate to relieve any concerns of perceived scarcity for decades to come. Standing alone, they are beyond adequate. And yet, this resolution is proposing the town spend all of this time and money and resources addressing the problem through the regional plan, and then simultaneously double the plan anyway. It seems to me that by recognizing, investing in, and completing the least damaging practical alternatives through this resolution, and then still going forward with the most destructive and unnecessary option, on top of all that work, you're making the town extremely vulnerable to the lawsuit. This resolution reads like the first 6 measures were only listed as a way to disguise the expansion plan, not complementing. If you're just going to expand the plan anyway, then just do it, and don't waste the time and money on this regional plan. Thank you.
We'll proceed to our next agenda item, discussion and action item. The first item up, A, is the Olive Weaver Road project. Action on annexation and R3 zoning. Planning Director Eller, you want to update us again?
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to give an important clarification from a statement that was made earlier. We're dealing with 25 acres here in lot 33. That being said, all of the other things that have been discussed this evening hold true. R3 zoning would support 202 units on this property if town council annexes it, if you describe the R3 zoning to these properties. Again, that can be single family or multifamily nature. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any councilors have questions for the planning director? There is none. Have a motion to accept the Olive Weaver project annexation and zoning proposal.
There is an ordinance drafted and already in your packets. That motion could be to adopt the ordinance as presented.
Is there a motion to adopt the ordinance as presented?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. And is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Cordell?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. McKenna?
Yes.
And Ms. Reed?
No.
Motion passes 6-1. Thank you very much. Next item B, adoption of the fiscal year 2022-23 budget. Town Manager Coffey, would you like to introduce this item?
Yes, sir. Thank you again. You have held your budget workshops and held your budget public hearing. We have presented to you tonight, on page 52, as the summary sheet, the budget ordinance proposed to you, in addition to fee schedule and the associated plan, pay plan related to the budget ordinance. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So we have talked a lot about the budget over the past couple of months. Are there any additional questions you have for town members and council members?
Just to clarify, this is a revenue neutral budget from a tax standpoint, so we're not.
There's no tax rate increase, that's correct.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
How do we, as a town, feel about getting permission to increase the fire tax in all of North Montgomery?
We can certainly do that. I did bring the idea forward this year to the county manager, who at that point in time, when I spoke to her, did not go in and go back. I proposed raising it from the 10.77.
It's 0.77.
Right.
Okay.
I presented moving that from that number, 10.77 up to 11 cents. that would have given us $29,000 additional dollars, based on the county's assessment. Proposed that, the response from the county manager at that point in time is, she would prefer us be at a 50-50 split. Currently, we are at a 68-32 split, with the county holding the 68% of the budget for revenue offsetting for the fire department. I have no problem whatsoever if the county council would like to do so, to go before her again next year and request that, and request it as high as county council would like to request it.
I did read that the state of North Carolina does allow some towns to do 15.6.15. And I also, when reading what we write on the website, it says that our fire department services 20,000 residents outside of the town limits, and we have 4,567. So, I don't understand why it needs to be a 50-50 split whatsoever. I would think that the people in North Carolina need to support some of that additional. So we'll talk about that then over the year to move forward in the January timeframe.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions regarding the adoption of this year's budget for the manager? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept the fiscal year 22-23 budget ordinance fee schedule and associated pay plan and pay classifications as effective July 1. Is there such a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept it.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. A roll call vote will ensue. Mr. J.
Yes.
Ms. Wood.
Yes.
Mr. Jackson.
Yes.
Ms. Cordell.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. McKenna.
Yes.
And Mr. Nagle.
No.
Motion passes 6-1. Thank you very much, Sean. Next on item C is the water line extension request on Clark's Chapel Road. And Public Works Director Pennell, tell us about this request.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I bring before you tonight a request from a developer who wishes to build a single-family residential development on Clark's Chapel Road, very near the intersection of Clark's Chapel Extension. This development will contain 13 homes, single-family homes on approximately 8.89 acres. Excuse me, and this property is approximately 2 miles outside town limits. The developer has requested a connection to the recently installed 12-inch water line on Clark's Chapel Road to serve this development with water. He's requesting a water commitment of 5,200 gallons per day with a peak demand of 45 gallons per minute. And that'll be done by having a 6-inch tap into the 12-inch main. And that line then extended along his private road to get to the 13 homes. And that water line will be a 6-inch duct line with fire hydrants. And upon completion, it will become an extension to the town's water system with meters at each home. And this request is brought to you due to the codes of the town that require town council approval for any extension to the town's water system. I've looked at this, so we have adequate and sufficient capacity to serve these 13 homes without any adverse effects on service to our current customers. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have about this request.
Are there any questions for Director Pennell with regard to this request? Seeing none, we have a motion to accept the request for the water line extension. So glad we had public comment already. Thank you. Is there a motion to accept the water line extension request for Clark's Chapel Road?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, Mr. Chase,
Yes.
Ms. Wood,
Yes.
Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Cordell,
Yes.
yes, Mr. McKenna,
Yes.
and Mr. Nagel.
No.
6-1, motion passed. Next item is item D, the resolution on water system recommendations. I think everyone's very aware of this. We're going to log read the whole thing, since I think everyone has. Let me just say that what this is a resolution. We're not approving anything tonight in terms of construction or in planning. What we're saying is that we're trying to create a direction, a path forward for the town of Louisville, and to create a roadmap to state our intentions for the future of what Louisville's water system. We've been debating this matter for now a couple of years. It's time for us to, as Mr. Hannah said, pick up the pot and make a direction for the town. So that's exactly what this resolution seeks to do. In this resolution, we try to incorporate more conservation measures, diversification measures, and the eventual expansion measures that might be needed for the town's future water system. Each of these items in this resolution will require at a future date the town council to pull the trigger after hearing from staff on budgets, timelines, and costs, etc. And will require a vote at that time for any of these items to be implemented. All we're doing tonight is passing a resolution saying this is the direction that we want to head. So we're not having to debate water and available water for every project that comes up in the future for us. We'll have a direction set. It may very well be that after we complete some of the initial items, that there may be that an expansion of the water project, the water plant, may even be delayed because we've accomplished so much in the first set of the first sets of the resolution. So, having said that, we're voting tonight is on the resolution, which includes those 7 items. What questions or comments do council members have?
Yeah, I mean, just to reinforce that, at least from my point of view, we've been single source forever. And I don't know anything in my business career or life where all your eggs are in one basket. And certainly with something like water, we should have put a multi-threaded path in place for a while. So I think you guys have done a great job identifying other connections. And, it's my hope that those are going to prove to be able to handle our supplemental needs well into the future. I'm also personally, very appreciative, but also very nervous about the low water event in 2008, because as you point out, that might as well count on it happening. And if we don't have these robust proven backups, we couldn't get past that. So we won't really know until we've been able to have these things in place. But I think it's a responsible way, and it could be that the water treatment plant expansion never happens or well into the future. But I think it's a responsible path.
I have comments also that will help answer some of the questions asked before. There was a misunderstanding from one of you. There is not plans for an additional water facility to be built across the river. This is a mirror image at the existing treatment facility. It has a plant here. It would mirror itself here like this. So it is not across the river. It's in the exact same location that it already is. The other thing that I think needs to be corrected here is we would not go from the capacity that we would be pulling to twice as much immediately. It would be as Weaverville grows, as North Weaverville, Buncombe County grows. It may take 30 years before we would pull the maximum capacity out. And in 30 years, a lot can happen, as Joe would say, and there might be additional lines in different directions. But I also think that if we did do this, it would help our neighbors of Marshall, who has been pulling water from contaminated wells for years. And that's just a good neighbor thing to do. We were asked 6 months ago to look at a regional. That's what we did. Are we engineers? No. Have we read data? Yes, like an encyclopedia. And have we seen reports from engineers? Yes. And do we think that we know how to build a water plant? We don't have to. We hire people to do that. And so I do support the
this resolution.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments about Mr. Jackson?
Yeah, I think it's on prudent for the town council to go forward with investigating all the alternatives and everything. Be very careless of us not to explore all avenues. We're not making a decision, like you said tonight, taking and trying to make sure we can do the right thing at the right time and so forth. I think this is a prudent step for the council to go forward, study different alternatives.
Andrew.
Mr. Nagel, and just before you start, Andrew, for those of you who are on Zoom, if you would turn your microphones off, we're hearing some feedback. Mr. Nagel?
Thank you, Mayor. I think I've expressed my concern over this since September, when Withers Ravenel came to us to double the cost. I think we did the right thing pausing the expansion. As Catherine just said, we need to correct some misinformation. I appreciate the young man speaking about doubling it. That's not what this does. If we double the size of the treatment facility, it quadruples what we take out of the river. So we're taking out less than half of the capacity right now. So we could double what we pull out of the Ivy River by doing nothing with nobody's permission. So that's a fact. It's an irrefutable fact that we take out less than half, and we could double what we take out of the river today with nobody's permission, with doing nothing. We don't have a demand for it. I don't think Weaverville's going to have a demand to quadruple what we pull out of the Ivy River, if it'll support it, but I don't see the demand of quadrupling. So let's talk about facts. 3 million divided by 700,000 is fourfold. It's not doubling it, it's quadrupling. Thank you, Mayor, for your time.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments about the resolution?
I just wanted to say that I think it makes good sense to look at all of the options that are before us before we make a decision on expanding the water treatment plant. I think it's the responsible thing to do.
Yeah. If that's the case, I'll entertain a motion to accept the resolution on the water system recommendation.
I'll enter a second.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Cordell?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. McKenna?
Yes.
Mr. Nagel?
No.
Thank you very much for motion passes 6-1. Next item is item E, the proposed disposition of town property at Clinton Street and Weaver Boulevard. And Andrew Coffey, can you update us?
Certainly, thank you. We have been approached by a company, Track West Partners, to propose the purchase of town property located at the northeast corner of Weaver Boulevard and Clinton Street for the amount of $275,000. You do have a copy of that letter of intent in your agenda packet, as well as a copy of the property record card, which shows the land value of that property at $730,100. If town council is interested in the sale of this property, we would need to go through a legal procedure in disposing of the property, real property. Since the potential buyer for the property is known, the town cannot to negotiate an offer with them, can advertise their offer and allow for a 10-day upset bid period. The process is allowed by statute, listed there, and it continues until a 10-day upset period elapses without a new bid. My recommendation to you is if you do wish to sell this property or even entertain selling this property, that you consider selling it for a substantially higher price tag than
Questions, John?
Yeah, I don't think, we're not designed to sell a property.
No.
I would not consider it unless you place value. That's going to have the frontage, we would go by the relative work. it's already said that, they want to request on the commercial, so it makes sense. And limited property, we have a particular type of location. It would be foolish to consider something like that, is not going to be that price.
Yeah, I didn't even know we had this, so, glad we do, but, and I think Mr. Nagel pulled up on GIS, so apparently we have several properties, none of them like this, so I'd like to see us, table this and take a look at all the properties we've got, just have a discussion about what do we want to do with them, let's prove, and certainly you never take the first hit on anything anyway, table this one.
Well, I looked at this about a year ago and called James about it because I was like, $730,000? And because I was thinking park at the time when I was looking at it. But it really is not conducive for a park. So yes, we should look at it. You should look at it. But I definitely agree with Doug on if we were to counter something like that, we counter it much higher price.
If I recall, it's a bit of a trade green.
It's not a floodplain, it says, but it does appear to be more drainage. It's kind of a hole.
It's not a whole lot of
That can't section is not as much as it goes on further, and it really does drop down. So this is prime part, and the background on that is, of course, you know, we were awarded that when we approved the project across the street, or some of this goodwill, so forth. They took a tax write-off.
Yeah, I don't know how somebody's going to build on it without spending a lot of time and energy and money and making the property buildable because it's old, but I don't, after that, still in rocks. It's a lot of rock.
So I'm hearing two ideas. One is to reject the offer and ask for a larger amount. The other is to postpone any decision to let the chance to examine all town properties that might be there, which could tie in with our July 19 meeting with planning. That could be an agenda item there. So what is the wish of council?
We should follow Jeff's lead on the reexamination of town properties.
Can you interpret that as a motion, sir? So the motion is to postpone the decision or table a decision on this until we have a chance to examine all town properties, which could be at the joint session of planning board and town council after July 19th meeting. Did I go with that?
Yes, thank you.
Pretty good. I'll say
Why do we need a motion on this?
That's a good point. We're really done.
I don't know that we need a motion on it. We got a insulting officer from an out-of-town developer. I wish it had never made it to the agenda, but it did. So I don't know that we need a motion. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. And I like Jeff's idea. And I like your idea, Patrick, of talking about it at the planning meeting of looking at all our property. But I don't think this ridiculous offer warrants 30 seconds of our time. It says what an out-of-town developer thinks of this town council. That's what it says.
And I think you make a good point. We don't need to vote. Can we just all kind of nod our heads and give?
There's already first.
Oh, that's true. Objection to all motion, sir.
Sure, I'll withdraw the motion.
Thank you.
And Mr. McKenna as well.
And Mr. McKenna.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I think, having talked to town manager, she has to surface these things to us, just as a matter of course, which I accept.
That would probably bring up section, not so.
Thank
So we
you.
will all kind of give a head nod to table this decision until after the July 19th meeting. All right. Good job. Sixth item is item F, traffic planning design proposal for Lake East pedestrian and bicycle loop. Manager Coffee, can you give some info on that?
Yes, sir. At your April 25th meeting, you discussed the potential for redesigning Lakeshore Drive and or Lake Louise Drive, and you asked that staff speak with traffic planning and design to get a quote from them or get information from them regarding providing to us a proposal. In that regard, specifically looking at the issue of making either of those streets or both of those streets, one-way streets. So I did reach out to Traffic Planning Design, and received from them a letter of engagement for your, consideration. The total for this would be not to exceed $9,500, total, and then bring this to you for your discussion, and if you could direct staff as to where you would like to go in this regard, whether you accept this, their proposal, or if you'd like to go in the direction.
I would like to make a comment. I don't think it's warranted to spend almost $10,000 on this particular study, which is going to be a matter of traffic count. At our April 25th meeting, I think we got input from some of our citizens, also from our fire department, police department, and particularly public works. They pointed out some causes. But I would like to suggest an alternative to get additional information, maybe representatives from those three departments. Study what they would do since they are increasing it so much, and come back to us with a recommendation.
We also have a recommendation from Mr. Beebe and Mr. Prophet. It's next to him. They said, you know, they believe that speed bumps would probably help in that area. And so I was wondering if we could get a quote on, is there such a thing as a temporary speed bump? It seems like I've seen these big 18-inch rubber.
It looks like that.
Okay. I mean, a person could try, or a town could try temporary speed bumps before we spend $10,000 on that study. Sorry.
She mentioned my name, so we'll let you go, John.
Councilman Nagel also has his hand up.
All right. Furthermore, that speed bumps, I mean, if you go down at Woodfin exit, get off there and go behind that exit at Lakeshore, I guess it's Lakeshore Drive there too. Going from Woodfin down toward Beaver Lake on that back side, like you're gonna go to the Fresh Market and everything. They got those wide, big speed bumps. And if you go faster than 15 miles an hour over the speed bumps, it's gonna jar your teeth. But if you're going about 15 miles an hour or less, those speed bumps don't bother you. I mean, I hate going down that road because of that. My wife insists on that way, and I don't go, just because of the speed bumps. So you're gonna accomplish two things by the speed bumps. You're gonna cut down on the traffic coming through that way, just to go that way, and you're gonna slow the traffic down. And the other thing I'd like to recommend is put up more of those electric signs with the speed limit 15 miles an hour. Not just one that's by the clubhouse. You need like 2 more around the lake, going in both directions. I think that will solve the problem, and we'll be all happy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Nagel, you have a comment?
I just wanted to. Yeah, Jennifer muted me. I don't blame her. I just wanted to reiterate, I agree with Councilman Jackson's statement. It's a waste of $9,500. Thank you.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I mean, I'm still kind of searching, do we actually have a problem? Or are we anticipating a problem? Because from everything I've heard at that meeting and conversations I had afterward, I couldn't determine if we actually have a problem today or we're expecting someday people might speed or somebody might get hit. And to your point, I'd rather not spend money until we actually have an issue to solve.
It's not a speeding problem for the chief of police. It is more of a community problem. There are people that come in here every year asking us to look at that. And then now that the community center has opened up and there's even more people there, it's on Nextdoor, Facebook, and people have come here and asked us to please look at that because they don't feel as safe as they would like to.
I mean, and to that point, if you go down the road, there's a couple common sense things we could do today. Like there's a couple areas where it's unclear where the road is and the sidewalk or the area begins. We could put some easy barriers there that delineate it and maybe make people feel safer and guide the runners. Man, things like speed bumps, jumping ahead to something like that, that we have an issue. I don't know. It hurts.
Are you saying we have a solution to a problem?
Maybe.
So let me just try and, this out our conversation. So first of all, the item for tonight, do we want to approve the paying the consultant was paid? And my hearing is, okay, so we're not going to, I'm not taking any action on that. There's also a suggestion from Councilman Jackson that we appoint a staff committee to come up with some possible solutions, such as speed bumps and blows, or something like that. Is that something the council is interested in seeing done as well?
Yes.
Could it also be something that is included in one of our joint planning board workshops?
That, obviously, especially it could be done as well.
Well, some of the people who came in and talked to us asked for one way, but we've heard a lot of comments about not wanting the one way. So, again, the experts could meet. I agree.
So then I think we're hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, that we will get another item to the agenda for July 19 about this, and also the staff needs to have one more committee to work on and offer some possible recommendations. Is that correct? Want to get everyone's feelings correct on that? Thank you. Item G, employee incentive program recommendations. Councilman, Councilman Coffee.
Begin on page 98, you have an agenda item where I am recommending the use of some of the $10,000 that is, has been annually approved in the budget. I would say for about 4 years now, for employee suggestion and incentive program. We have 5 people, 4 from the Public Works Department and 1 from the Police Department that I'd like to recommend an award of $500 each. The first one is Officer Derek Burrell, who you will turn to page 100. I really like this. It's a very good use of technology, and you'll see the QR code there. For folks who, when they get a ticket, to use their phone, scan that QR code, and they're able to immediately pay the bill. I am recommending a $500 incentive payment to Officer Burrell for this project. The next project, you'll see several pictures here on pages 102 and 103, is a recommendation that you approve the award of $500 to Public Works Superintendent Eric Cutshaw, David Fisher, Ground Maintenance Crew Leader, Scotty Profit, Streets Crew Leader, and Senior Maintenance Worker Tim Kemp. And this is for their work in saving what would have been contractor fees to make improvements to the restroom building down at Lake Louise Park. Recommending $500 for each of those gentlemen.
So is there a motion to accept the recommendation from the town?
Make a motion to accept this.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. A roll call vote. We'll go with Mr. Gable.
Yes.
Mr. McKenna.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Cordell.
Yes.
Mr. Jackson.
Yes.
Ms. Wood.
Yes.
And Mr. Chase.
Yes.
Thank you. The next item is item H, the MS4. I'm going with that, is right. Stormwater program update. Attorney Jackson, please tell us what MS4 stormwater update is.
I will. Thank you, and good evening. As some council will probably remember, back in the spring of last year, you adopted, or we presented to the Department of Environmental Quality a draft stormwater management plan. This was one of the required items that we needed to go through as an audit compliance issue. It's lengthy, it's very tedious. It outlines essentially a 5-year plan of steps that we need to take or should be taking with regard to our stormwater program that we are required to have. The town is required to have it. Wanted to let you know that there's been some leadership changes at the
specific stormwater division at the Department of Environmental Quality. And so they have, thought that we were gonna have our draft reviewed in June or July, like right now. And it's been delayed indefinitely, which puts us in an awkward position because we've got a permit, that we need to stay in compliance with. But part of that is the draft being approved by DEQ. So we're a little bit at odds and trying to work through that to make sure that we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing while DEQ figures their stuff out. But one of the items, two critical components of the stormwater management plan that we're required to have in place have to do with construction site runoff controls, which is your grading, making sure that all those measures, sedimentation, erosion control measures are in place, and then also post-construction stormwater. And that's handled right now. Both of those components are being administered through the county. We are proposing that relationship continue. But one of the things that we were called out on is that our relationship with the county on these matters is so old, it's out of compliance with where it really needs to be. So we're required to update that agreement with the county. And so what's in your packet tonight is a draft intergovernmental agreement that I've been working with the county's attorneys to get in good format. This is a 5-year agreement. It does not call for any charges other than the permit fee basis that we're currently under. Meaning as folks develop the property, they're required to go through the sedimentation and erosion control permit, and the relevant fees for that, and also if it's big enough and requires a post-construction stormwater plan, they've got to go through that process too. So there's not any money that the town has to pay on this at the moment. It does contain a 180-day termination clause that either party can provide notice on. Any questions of me? I would like, again, I know I preface this by saying we're kind of in no man's land right now with the draft stormwater management plan, but we are told that we need to be clicking things off, and this is one of the actions that we're slated to consider in year one. And so we would like some approval on this so that it can go to the county for a reciprocal.
Are there any questions from your attorney? If not, is there a motion to accept the recommendation? Did I word that correctly? Very good. Is there a second? Thank you. Roll call, Mr. Nagle?
Yes.
Mr. McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Cordell?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
And Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Next is item I, report of work from the Public Works Department, and Director Kendall, you tell us what you're up to?
Good evening again. Starting on page 112, you have the quarterly report from the Public Works Department. As I noted, you're also here next from Trent Duncan, Water Resources Superintendent. We've taken the components out of the Public Works report that have to do specifically with water production, water usage, and Trent will be reporting on those in the future since he's so intimately involved with it and loves it so very much. So what you've got here is the things that are truly public works and water maintenance. So I'll go through those very quickly and hit some highlights. Third line down on page 112 is total active water meters. The first number there, 3,104, was our February total. And you can see now in May, that's 3,161. So rough numbers, we've added between 50 and 60 meters in that period of time.
which a lot of those have to do with meters out of the commons, and other developments have already been approved, but there's also a lot of infill development, as you can attest to yourselves. That means, in the quarter, we've added 33 meters. There are few, though, water line projects under construction right now. The Palisades, just across Ring Street from Lake Louise, is the only current project that has a water line that's under construction. And we've, that is now all connected in, and we still have a long way to go on the project, but the water line is connected and ready for them to go. On page 113, in addition to the extra meters that we're putting in, we're adding garbage collection. And on the top line under residential connection points, the difference between March and May is 13 new homes now are picking up garbage at every week, which means we're continuing to grow, and hopefully the budget that you passed, and that included the program to work through supplying everyone with a toter, that'll end up being a good thing for the town as it feeds in upcoming months. Finally, on page 114, under miscellaneous, just want to update you on a very few things. We should be coming back to you probably in August after we finish our street surveys. We won't be able to, according to the town manager and the town finance director, we won't take all the paving money that we have in this year's budget, which is upwards of a little over $500,000, which is this current year's Powell money and the money that you set aside for the current budget year, and add it to next year's, which is like $450,000 plus the Powell bill for next year. So we'll hopefully have about $1 million to spend on paving work. And that the prices that we're hearing in paving costs these days will need every penny of that in order to stretch it just as far as we can for a paving program that will happen in the next budget year. As the town manager has already mentioned, the restrooms that Lake Louise been renovated and they're used, and our fellows get positive comments down there every time someone comes to the restroom or they're doing any kind of maintenance. So that's a real home run, I think, all the way around. We also added 3 new gravel parking spaces in Lake Louise and on the knoll. We look at the water wheel, did a real major cleanup down below the water wheel after some snake reports were given to us. And then in response to concerns from the police department about how many people will be at the community center for the Ukrainian benefit that was several Friday nights ago, the guys and I went to the pool property, the recreational complex property, and created 22 temporary spaces there. And every one of those was used, and another half dozen that were invented by people. It's made a huge difference in being able to accommodate the crowds that we have. And then since it's been used almost every Wednesday for the tailgate market, they've had some really major crowds there. And so we found that that's been very helpful as we work through the final design of the recreation complex. And finally, if you know anyone who wants a seasonal worker job, we have 4 openings still, and we can't find anyone. We've advertised and promoted, if anybody knows someone that would like to get some good outdoor work for the next 6 months or so, we'd love to have them apply. So that's my report. Anything I can answer for? Yes, sir.
A few years ago, you did a grade of the different streets in town based on the need for repaving by the standard of highway department or something.
Yes.
How often do you revisit that? Because the streets change and everything. I just wanted to, it's been some time, I remember.
It is, and if my memory serves me correctly, there are about 120 different streets or segments of streets that we evaluate, and I think I have 12 left. So to evaluate, we've done over 100 in preparation for this upcoming paving program. I think I've got about a dozen left to evaluate in order to have a complete list. It's a system that's put out both by DOT and DRE, the National Transportation Research. And it's a combination. It looks at ride quality, condition payment, number of potholes, number of utility cuts, the condition of shoulders, the age of the roads, the cracking, all those different things. And you actually come up with a specific number, 0 to 100 ranking, with 100 being perfect and 0 being you get moved to a portion of the buggy to get across it. So we'll be doing that, and the criteria for that, Councilman, is that you'd like to have all your roads above a 60. And for anything at or below 60 needs to be on a paving list, and then you see what exactly needs to be done so you stretch your money.
We have pretty many streets left that have the concrete base. I know that one of the things that was very expensive was when we did the Church Street, because they had the concrete, they had to take it up, we paid it, it's very expensive. We have very many more like that.
There may be some on Central and maybe some on Alabama.
And on the countries. I know about one of that. Yeah, that's that concrete.
But that may be all. But, and you're right, I think we spent upwards of $350,000 just on Church Street. But it was done right, and it's still in good shape. So that's the objective. If you do it right, you're good for 20 years.
Councilman Jackson, just to really kind of key in on the answer to your question is the goal is that we update that scoring process annually, or at least every time we are going to put money towards it. As you recall, during the pandemic, we weren't able to put money towards it. In fact, we removed that from the budget. But the goal, my goal for us is that we do that every year as part of the budget process. And so I thank Bill for doing that. But that's an annual, the goal is that's an annual. That's right. Because there are streets that will move higher in ranking one year versus another just based on weather and what happens to the streets and that type of thing. So we always want to stay on top of it.
Any questions for Deb? So I do want to thank you for you and your staff taking the initiative with the Ukraine benefit. We did have a very full house that night, and the crew made over $10,000 from Ukraine stuff. Thank you for your help on that. I think that was very much appreciated. Glad to help all the time. Item J, the next time we'll report on the water department and
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm going to entertain you with some more water numbers. First of all, I'd like to kind of give a little pat on the back to my staff. We had about a 7-hour-long audit the other day for our risk management plan and our air quality because we have chlorine gas. That entails about a 750-page document, and as the inspectors were leaving, they said there would be no violations. As far as I know, it'll be the first time since we've been doing the RFP that there's no violations. So it takes every one of us to pull together and keep those documents in check, along with another third party that helps us keep those in check as well. That's one of the main driving factors also of getting rid of chlorine gas because of the safety issue. It requires so much hazard awareness and risk management. As far as the water numbers, of course, they're going up because it's hot outside.
You'll see April on your numbers was a little lower, but April was a really wet month. Really nothing huge to note, other than our average unaccounted for water staying in that 10% range, which is excellent. It's very hard. That's giving credit to the distribution crew for being on top of everything and keeping our infrastructure in great shape. Have added a line that you're not used to typically seeing, and that's year to date from this year and from the previous year, and that's from January until the end of May. It shows what we have withdrawn from the river year to date versus the previous year. And we're about 3 million gallons, 3 million gallons higher right now than we were this time last year. And then where you might have a little alarm when you see that 69% under the future usage. I know we're all scared of the 70% number, but we also must remember that it's kind of a yo-yo effect. It'll go up and it'll come back down as things get put in service and we get actual numbers. Another project that you're going to be hearing about, some of you, we are going through, right now we're going through the list of every active meter and determining the year the property was built. My staff's going through, we got those from Morgan, they're going through every individual one, and this is in order to find out the approximate age the property was built, to determine the possibility of lead in the household. This is a newer requirement from the EPA. We've almost got through all 3,180 something of those. We went through individually on GIS, pulled the data for the year built, and then the ones that fall into the category of before 1989, 1990, will end up getting a flyer, either door tag or in the mail, to fill out a survey to let us know if their plumbing has been updated from the meter to the house, or what kind of plumbing is inside the home. So you'll be hearing more about that in the coming months. We're just now starting to cut our teeth on going through all the data.
Congratulations on your inspection today. Any questions for the water resources superintendent?
I just want to make a comment that regardless of numbers is not my best skill. And I think it's really helpful when you have like this is item 1C plus number 2 or whatever, so I can see what that number actually came from. Thank you. That's just really helpful.
Excellent. Any others? Thank you. We do have a short closed session. If you ready to appropriate the motion to do so.
Motion would be appropriate to go into closed session as allowed by North Carolina General Statute, section 143-318.11A3, in order to consult with the town attorney, in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege, and to consider the instructions to an attorney concerning the handling of settlement.
Now, motion to go into closed session. So moved. Second.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Nagel, and someone will call on the phone. Somehow we'll get you engaged in that process.
No.
Okay, and Mr. McKenna? Yes. Yes. Ms. Waddell?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson? Yes. Ms. Williams?
Yes.
And Mr. Jason?
Yes.
Thank you very much. We are in closed session. See you in a few minutes and.
And I'm like, what do you want? I said, I told Connie, you know, I said, we sure, you know what shit they're gonna give me when they see that? She's like, I know.
We're now back in open session. I think we conclude our business for the evening.
Hang on one second, I'll get back up.
Yes, we are.
Is there any more business that needs to be brought from this body this evening? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to close.
So motion.
Mr. Chase?
Second. And we have to do a roll call vote for this, I guess. Andrew, are you present?
Yes.
Okay. Jeff?
Yes.
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 We are adjourned. Thank you for your heavy lifting tonight.
That's all.